You are watching New Vision TV, and I am Gloria Nakajubi. Today in studio we have an immunologist and a senior lecturer from Bustema University. We sustained the debate around primary immunodeficiency diseases. Mr. Benson, would you please tell us what exactly do you have up your sleeves as a researcher who is keen on this particular area?
Primary immunodeficiency disorders, or diseases as some prefer to call them, are not new. They are old, though they were just discovered in the late 50s. So a child whose immune system is deficient genetically is susceptible to many infections, a spectrum of infections. The thing to do is to take the child to a pediatrician. The key to get the right doctor, to look at, to examine the child and do the necessary tests to rule out that this is not the condition. And the field became prominent in early 2000 in most countries, including the most developed countries, the US and Europe.
Okay. Maybe to hear it from an immunologist, you could tell us some of the things that parents, as a person who is watching you now, what should they be looking at? What could, for example, be like indicators of these kinds of conditions?
Oh, yeah, very interesting. Now, these children, first of all, these disorders are discriminatory. That the common disorders affect male infants or children. And they start showing up after 1 year, after breastfeeding. After breastfeeding, this passive immunity that the children get from the breast milk, that immunity wanes with the breastfeeding. After 1 year, it disappears. So the health of the child deteriorates. You start seeing your child in the second year getting recurrent infections. She's sickly. Yes, she goes to the hospital, gets treatment, recovers, but then after goes back. So this child is in the hospital all the time. That is one suspect. You know that that child has a problem, especially when that child is a male. The other way of looking at it is to look at your family. If you have been, you're in a family where you have lost or you're losing boys, that could be a problem that you have this, because this is a genetical condition inherited from parents. Then you know that in the family there is a problem. So especially those who have been losing boys, when that one happens, girls are not, even the conditions in the girls are not severe. No, conditions in the girls are not severe. Girls carry the genes and pass them on when they get married to their sons.
Well, you talk about how this particular condition can easily be detected by immunologists. Do we have those many immunologists in our country? Doesn't that pose another challenge?
Unfortunately, here in Africa, it is still news. The rest of North Africa, talk about Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, they are a bit ahead of us because they have entered into the field. They have national registries. They're doing screening, so they have ideas of how the burden is in their countries.
So where does that place us as a country? What exactly does that mean? Should we care?
This is my hypothesis, that the reason why we could be having these recurrences of measles after vaccination could be that these are actually PID cases. But we don't have science to, I don't have the science to back up that statement or that hypothesis, but that could be the reason. So the point is that children with these disorders do not benefit from vaccines or vaccination. So that is an issue. It's something to worry about.
So what that basically means is we are wasting money on vaccination?
Not really. That is a very strong statement. Wasting money on vaccination what worries actually that we have no idea, even the little or the few cases that we have no idea. So it is important that we establish the incidences and prevalences of these conditions in our population so that we get out of that zone of worry. We know that the incidence is quite low or is quite high, and then we plan accordingly.
On these particular cases, what plans do you have?
One plan is to roll out awareness. Awareness starting with the key people. And the key people I'm talking about are the clinicians who are pediatricians, who see children as they are born and then take care of them. So they are likely to see these cases. Now the awareness is to empower them so that they can do the right diagnosis and then plan for the appropriate management.
Okay. So should we actually say that currently there is a knowledge gap
Absolutely.
among our health workers?
There is a knowledge gap. Actually, it is not only our only health workers. There are two interesting cases. Even when you go to the developed countries, look at the US, there is a recent study which shows actually that there is still inadequate awareness of these conditions, even within the medical community. It is only the clinicians who are immunologists that are keen on these cases, even in the US. But the general doctors, the general practitioners are deficient in this knowledge. So unless the patients or the family doctors are immunologists, that's when they can easily tease out and manage the conditions early enough.
You refer to the numbers, getting the numbers and understanding the prevalence and basically getting to assess the situation of these conditions in our country. How do you intend to do this?
One is to roll out awareness. And once we've done that, it will help us quickly identify the cases. Once that one happens, then we have an idea of how many cases we have and how many patients we have. Then we can lobby. We can lobby. When we know the numbers, we can lobby for access, subsidized access to treatment. That is one of the expectations. And once we have that one done, then we have what we call negotiating power to have the prices down. But also, that one may attract. Once you have the numbers, you attract investment, people to come and do business here. And that one also affects the price, so it leads to reduction. But the key thing is, the key element here is that once we know the numbers, then we can lobby for the reduction. And then we can also, once we have the numbers and the case is clear, then we have the National Drug Authority getting into business, allowing people to bring in drugs, and all that affects the price. Once granted and approved, here is actually to do screening for all the children that are born. You do the screening when they are born. And those who are coming to the clinic, you do the screening so that you know that they have these conditions or not.
So, Mr. Barugahari, you indicated to us that most of these cases, if a child has this case or this condition, chances are that they will not survive beyond their 5th birthday.
In fact, children with this condition rarely exceed 5 years. They rarely. In fact, some of the disorders don't spare them even after a year. After breastfeeding is done, the next 1 year, 2 years, they don't go beyond 2 years because they will get these continuous the infections, and some of them come when they are severe and they die, actually.
If you were to meet or to have an interaction with policymakers or the people that make decisions, especially health-related decisions in this country, what would be your message?
I would recommend that the Minister of Health plans to do screening to have an idea of how big the problem is. The grant I'm talking about, we are applying for money from elsewhere. This may not be as urgent as we want it to be.
It's not
but
even sustainable.
Exactly. So the government can do this. After all, after we have screened and the problem is not there, no problem. There is no deal. But if it is there, we know how to handle it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barugahare. It has been a very informative and educative interaction. I mean, now we know that primary immunodeficiency diseases are not necessarily as strange or they do not exist as we might assume. You've been watching this from New Vision TV, and I am your host, Gloria Nakajubi.